Where did medieval people sleep? If you've ever wondered how people slept in medieval times, you're about to uncover some fascinating and sometimes surprising facts. Let's take a journey back in time to see where medieval people laid their heads at night. In medieval times, sleeping arrangements were far from what we consider comfortable today. For most people, especially those in peasant households, sleeping was a communal affair. Families lived in small, one-room cottages where everyone slept together in the same room. This room often served multiple purposes. It was where meals were eaten, celebrations were held, and daily activities took place. In these one-room cottages, people slept on thin woven mats or mattresses stuffed with wool, hay, or moss. These beds were not very comfortable and were often infested with fleas, lice, and other pests. To combat these unwanted guests, people used tightly woven mattress covers, insect-repellent herbs, or stored their bedding in cedar chests. For those who were a bit wealthier, sleeping arrangements were slightly more comfortable, but still not very private. Wealthy families might have a real bed with a mattress and drawn curtains, but the whole family would still sleep together in this bed. Servants would sleep nearby on straw mats, and guests might even be invited to share the bed. In larger households or castles, the layout was a bit different. The hall was the main room where meals were eaten, celebrations were held, and guests were received. At night, this hall would transform into a sleeping area for the servants, who would sleep on the floor on rushes or rush mats with blankets. The lord of the house would sleep in a separate room called the solar, which was usually located on the first floor at the end of the hall. This room was more like a drawing room during the day, and was one of the few places where family members could find some privacy. When traveling or staying in inns, the situation was similar. Inns had rooms with multiple beds, each bed accommodating 3 or 4 people. This communal sleeping was the norm, as space was limited and privacy was not a concept that people valued in the same way as we do today. Even the bedding itself was quite different. Pillows were sacks filled with hay or feathers, and blankets were made of wool or fur to keep warm. In cold weather, people used hot stones or bed warmers filled with hot coals from the fire to warm their beds before sleeping. Medieval people also had to contend with the elements. Fireplaces were the only source of heat, and these had to be tended throughout the night to keep the room warm. Heavy rains could leak through the thatched roofs, and wind would whistle through the walls and windows, making for a less than cozy sleeping environment. So, where did medieval people sleep? They slept in communal settings, often in the same room as their entire family, and sometimes even with servants and guests. Their beds were simple, and their sleeping conditions were far from the comfort and privacy we enjoy today. Despite these challenges, medieval people made do with what they had, and their sleeping arrangements reflect the social and economic realities of their time.